The one thing that improved my guitar solos the most when I was learning guitar was double stops. Anywhere, everywhere. I guess that's actually two things because they're double stops, but you get my meaning. And I'm sure a lot of you can probably play some double stops sometimes, but can you combine them all together? For example, play some blues double stops, then some major thirds on adjacent strings, and then how about major sixes on non-adjacent strings? And then back down. Ooh, that was with the blue note. These are the most common ways to play double stops on guitar, and you can throw them in at any moment in any solo. So let's figure out how to play them and also how to find them just easily whenever we need them. Blues double stops are not just for the blues. Have a listen to the guitar solo on Pink Floyd's Money or the guitar solo on AC/DC's You Shook Me All Night Long. Chuck Berry used them, Jimi Hendrix used it, Slash used it. It's for anything where you want rock and roll to sound just a little more dissonant and cool. Let's do the three most common blues double stops. First is we just think of A minor pentatonic easy shape because these double stops are coming right from that shape. So that scale is right here, you know it. And if we just put our first finger across these two strings, the G and B strings, and play both of those notes, we have a double stop. That's all a double stop is, right? It's just two notes at once. And we can visualize that those two notes are right in that minor pentatonic shape. A great way to do that is just to resolve afterwards like I did. I just hit the root afterwards, right? And we could even give that double stop just the littlest of bends, just maybe a quarter step. It's not even a real note in that sense, right? It's microtonal. It's just really dissonant to make it sound kind of gritty. And it resolves great with that root afterwards. Now, we could imagine the pentatonic shape, and we could actually take any two notes of that pentatonic shape and turn it into a double stop. But here's the next most common one. If we visualize how easy shape connects to extension shape, which is just above it, right? Some people call that the house of blues or the box. That's this one up here. We can picture these two notes on the G and B strings. In this case, that will be 9th fret and 8th fret. Very commonly, we will slide into those two notes and play them a few times. It's a great sound. You could try combining the two of them just to create a slightly longer line with more double stops. So we can do the slide into extension and then the other one resolving to the root. Let's do one more common blues double stops before we move on, and that is right here. It would be, again, the same strings, G and B strings, but it would be 7/7. So we would just lay our third finger across the 7th fret and play those two strings, the G and B strings. It's very frequent that we would combine that with the 5/5s, right? So I did the 7/7s, 5/5s, and then the root again. But where is that 7 coming from? Because again, if we visualize the A minor pentatonic easy shape, we'll see that 7 is not in A minor pentatonic, right? That would normally be 8th fret, not 7th fret. So what is that note? Well, it's an F sharp, but more importantly, it's coming from the 4 chord in a blues. What would the 4 chord be in an A blues? It would be D chord. And if you look at that D bar chord, you'll see that that note is right in there. In a blues, it would be a D or a D7, doesn't matter, that note's there. So let's combine all three. We've got the slide to the extension, we've got the 7/7s, we've got the 5/5s. We could combine those in many different ways. Maybe it's something like this. Or something like this. Who knows? You can make up your own just by combining those double stops and landing on a root, or something else if you want to be more clever. We're going to have all the tabs for these, plus lots more double stop licks on our Patreon, so you can check that out. The link is below. But let's do major thirds. So this is a very different sound. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk up the A major scale in thirds. That sounds complicated, but the main thing that we do on guitar, as you know, is things are so visual. All we want to do really is picture the way it looks, but we need to understand it a little bit so that we know where to start. Because again, we want to be able to play these kinds of double stops anywhere, anytime. So let's orient ourselves to first A major pentatonic. So I'm going to put my pinky on the A there, and I'm going to walk up A major pentatonic. That's just easy shape from there, right? And you'll see that A chord there that I have. That A chord contains two of the notes that we're going to start our lick with, our double stops lick. It has the A, which is second fret of the G string there, and it has C sharp, which is second fret of the B string. So all we're going to do is we're going to lay our first finger across those two notes. That's a major third. Why is that a major third? Because in the key of A, if A is 1, we would go A, B, C sharp. That has a sharp there, but that's the third, right? A, B, C sharp. So we're playing A and its third, and it sounds like that. They harmonize nice together, just like singers would do. If you've got backup singers in your band, often they're doing that kind of thing. They're singing maybe the root and maybe the third from there, or whatever the notes happen to be. Now, here's where it gets really cool. The lower note, the A, is going to walk up the scale. It's going to go A, B, C sharp. That's just the scale of A major, right? And the higher one, the third, is going to walk up also A major, but from there. So it's going to go C sharp, D, and then E. That's a lot of theory, and in reality, we're not thinking about that when we're playing these. We're just finding our starting point, and we're memorizing the shape because it's always going to be the same shape so long as we're doing this trick on the G and B strings. It will change for other strings, and we'll look at that on our Patreon. But right here, we're going to keep it easy, and this is the most common one. It's the most common one? I think it's the most common one. So when you memorize that, you can throw it into any solo whenever you're playing something that is in a major key, right? This does not work in minor. Well, it does, but we would have to change it. So for now, we're just in major. That's why we can hear that A chord. And in fact, we can see it's coming from that A chord. We could just remember, well, it comes from that chord, or we could just memorize that it comes from the major pentatonic, easy shape, there. For example, what if we were in the key of D? We might go up to D major pentatonic, which would be up here. And there's that lick right there. It walks up the thirds. Now I accidentally added an extra blue note in there. Did you see that? I went like this. If you want to sound a little more Stevie Ray Vaughan, that is definitely the way to do it. Add that extra blue note in between. I find that all of these double stops, especially these thirds, always sound great if you just use them as the end of a lick. So you might play something major pentatonic here, and then just walk up those thirds. It's a really nice way to make the lick sound more interesting. It's definitely more harmonically interesting, and it just sounds thicker because you've got those series of double stops. Okay, last one for this YouTube video, and then as you know, we're going to have lots more of this on Patreon, plus the tabs. But we did say at the beginning of this video that we were going to do blues double stops, and then we said thirds on adjacent strings, and then we said sixes on non-adjacent strings. So non-adjacent strings meaning they are separated out more. So let's say we just find this A at the 5th fret of the high E string. Now, remember we talked about thirds and we said that a third of A is C sharp. So we would go A, B, C sharp, right? But in this case, we're going to find the C sharp down below. And that's at the 6th fret of the G string. So we can see now they're separated. There's nothing on the B string in between, right? So we've got the C sharp below and the A up high. And again, the fact that it's C sharp is the major third of A is not nearly as important. It's kind of cool to know. It's kind of cool to be able to say that. But the most important thing is just finding the root. That's the quickest way to find these tricks, right? Is just memorize any method that works for you to be able to find the thirds or the double stops that you need whenever you need them. And in this case, all I do is I just find the root, in this case A, and then I know the shape from there. And then I have just memorized what the walk up sixes looks like. It looks like this. That is in millions of songs, right? One of my favorite examples of this technique is the intro to Piece of My Heart, which Janis Joplin's recording is so amazing. But we can throw these in at the end of any line like we've been doing before. We just have to use a bit of scale or maybe a lick that we already know and then just finish with this little sixes run up. So what's the scale right in that area if we're in major pentatonic in this case? That shape would be major pentatonic extension shape. Remember, we were in A major pentatonic down here. So extension shape, or the box, or the house of blues as you guys like to call it, but this is in major pentatonic, is right here. And there is my sixes. So maybe I'm playing in this shape here, this pentatonic shape, playing something that, whatever, I don't know, maybe it's just some scale-wise playing or some cool hammer-ons or pull-offs, I don't know, whatever you like to play. And then you play the sixes. And, oh man, I just did the blues again. I can't help but to put that extra blue note in. What's that extra blue note? It's in the same spot as it would have been if we were playing thirds. What I mean is that you just add one extra half step, so then it looks like this. So if you want that bluesy Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of sound, add that extra half step. And if you don't want that, if you want that to just be a little more maybe jazzy or a little more soul, R&B, you just walk up or down. We could go backwards, right? In fact, all these work backwards. That sounds pretty cool too. So I might play up that scale and down the sixes. That's a really kind of nice neo-soul kind of sound. Or up and then back down. Ooh, that was with the blue note. So for all of you who are in our Patreon group, we're going to do some combinations where we walk up major pentatonic, do the thirds, and then maybe some extension shape, sixes, and then maybe getting gritty and with the blues double stops there as well. And if you're not a member on Patreon, you can get 7 days for free to try it out. So you have nothing to lose, right? The link to that is below. And thanks very much to all our rock star sponsors on Patreon. But also, I'm going to put another video right here for you. This is from our YouTube channel. If you're not convinced, we got lots more lessons here for free. So I'll see you over there. My name is Blue Morris, and I teach guitar lessons right here in Vancouver, Canada, and of course also on Patreon. I'll see you in the next one.